I had ambitions to set out and find, like an odyssey, going home somewhere. I'm set out to find this home that I'd left a while back, and I couldn't remember exactly where it was, but I was on my way there, and encountering what I encountered on the way was how I envisioned it all. I didn't really have any ambition at all. I was born very far from where I'm supposed to be, and so I'm on my way home, you know. Time, you can do a lot of things that seem to make time stand still, but of course, you know, no one can do that.
Drifting too far from the shore, you're drifting too far from the shore.
Maybe when I was about 10, I started playing the guitar. I found a guitar in the house that my father bought, actually. I found something else in there. This kind of mystical overtones. There was a great big mahogany radio. It had a 78 turntable when you opened up the top. And I opened it up one day, and there was a record on there, a country record. It's a song called Drifting Too Far from Shore.
You're drifting too far from the shore.
The sound of the record made me feel like I was somebody else. And then, you know, that I was maybe not even born to the right parents or something.
You got to accentuate the positive feeling, minus to negative, latch on to the affirmative, don't mess with Mr. In-Between.
It looked like any other town out of the 40s or 50s, just some rural town, was on the way to nowhere, and you probably couldn't find it on a map. Maybe 3 blocks one way and maybe 3 blocks the other way, and that was like a main street where all the department stores were, the drug stores, that's about it, you know. What happens to a town after the livelihood is gone? All right, it just sort of decays and blows away, doesn't it? That's the way it goes. Most of the land was either farmland or just completely scavenged by the mining companies. Very hot in the summertime. In the winter, it was just rightly cold. You know, just all winter was just, I mean, we didn't have the clothes they have now, so I mean, you just wore 2 or 3 shirts at a time, slept in your clothes. The pit was on the outer limits of the town. That's where everybody worked. Well, you couldn't be a rebel. It was so cold that you couldn't be bad. The weather equalizes everything very quickly. Nobody was going to really pull a stick up There really wasn't any philosophy, any idiom, any ideology to really go against. My father and his brothers, they had an electrical store. The first job I ever had was sweeping up the store, and I was supposed to learn the discipline of hard work or something, you know, and the merits of employment. Circuses came through. There were tent shows at the Kearney Midways, and they had barkers.
Got a horse with two hands. Got a chicken in there with a man's fan. He sealed the girl boy.
It's just more rural back then. That's what people did. You could see guys in blackface, George Washington in blackface, or Napoleon wearing blackface. There's like weird Shakespearean things, stuff that didn't really make any sense at the time. And people had other jobs in the Kearney scene. I saw somebody putting makeup on, getting back from running the Ferris wheel once. And I thought that was pretty interesting. You know, wow, the guy's got, you know, well, he does two things, you know, or something like that.
I've got a song here that I'd like to do that's been awful kind to me and the boys. A little tune called Cold, Cold Heart. I try so hard, my dear, to show that you're my every dream. Yet you're afraid each thing I do is just some evil scheme. A memory from your lonesome past keeps us so far apart. Why can't I free your doubtful mind and melt your cold, cold heart?
We'd have to like listen late at night for other stations to come in from other parts of the country, places that were far away. 50,000 watt stations coming out through the atmosphere.
He told me he was
Johnny Ray, he had some kind of strange incantation in his voice, like he'd been voodooed, and he cried kind of when he sang.
I have faith in all kinds of weather, for the sun will always shine.
It's Grand Ole Opry time, another big folk music show starring Webb Pierce.
There stands the glass that will settle my brain. It's my first one to take.
Working, got my mojo working, working, got my mojo working, got my mojo working, but just don't work on you.
It was the sound that got to me. It wasn't who it was, or it was the sound of it.
This is our town, Hibbing, Minnesota, USA.
When I began listening to the radio, I began to get bored of being there. I thought about going to military school, but the military school that I envisioned myself going to, we couldn't get in, which was West Point. You know, I could always envision myself dying in some heroic battle somewhere. So I mean, maybe that era that is gone.
Well, it's Saturday night and I just got paid. Fool about my money, don't try to play. Cats all jumping around, have a time. Saturday night, honey, I'm feeling fine. Gonna rock it up, gonna rip it up, gonna shake it up, gonna ball it up. I'm gonna rip it up and rock tonight. Me a date and I won't be late. I picked her up in my 88.
First time I heard rock and roll on the radio, I felt it was pretty similar to the country music which I've been listening to. I formed a couple of groups growing up, and we rehearsed and played, and where we could play, there wasn't much opportunity to really break out of that area.
Robert was in my class, and that was the hour that they had the talent show. Robert, of course, he was up on stage. His concert began, and it was quite surprising. I saw Robert stand there at the piano, and my guess is that he was trying to destroy it. He pounded on the thing. It was a most unusual thing to observe. The principal pulled the curtain on him. He said to me, I didn't think that music was suitable for the audience, so I pulled the curtain.
Nobody liked country music or rock and roll or rhythm and blues. That kind of music wasn't what was happening up there.
How much is that doggy in the window?
The music that was popular was, how much is that doggy in the window? That wasn't our reality. Our reality was bleak to begin with. Our reality was fear. At any moment, this black cloud would explode, would everybody be dead? They would show you in school how to dive for cover under your desk. We grew up with all that, so it created a sense of paranoia that, I don't know, probably unforeseen.
In May 1959, I recorded a tape for Bob Zimmerman. Bob was real excited to learn I had a tape recorder, and he wanted to know what he sounded like.
I really can't say the girls took a liking to me or not from playing around town. The first girl that ever took a liking to me, her name was Gloria Story. Gloria Story, I mean, that was her real name. Second girlfriend was named Echo. Now, that's pretty strange. I've never met anybody named Echo. I serenaded her underneath the ladder that went up to her window. And both these girls, by the way, brought out the poet in me.
Long after we have gone, while the flash of our beginning has not yet traveled the light years into distance, we will disappear into the blackness of the space from which we came, destroyed as we began in a burst of gas and fire.
James Dean, Brando, the wild one, he didn't kill the entire past. It's not like they just appeared and, like there's a new scene happening now. Time, you know, a time kind of obliterated the past that was around when I was growing up. Just time in progress, really.
Changed altogether. He's changed from what he was. He's not the same as what he was at first.
You don't even recognize him.
No.
About a year ago, I saw him here in Sheffield at the City Hall, and I thought he was magnificent. And, you know, I thought he just couldn't improve if he tried. Then the next thing that happened was he went really commercial with this backing group, and I didn't like that very much. I don't know what he's trying to do. I think he's conceding to to some sort of popular taste. I think it's a bad thing. I think he's prostituting himself.
Makes you sick listening to this rubbish now.
Bob Dylan was a bastard in the second half.
I don't think the spirit of the Dylan songs is being portrayed in his with this incredibly corny group behind him. I like his earlier records as on his freewheeling LPs, etc., but this I just can't stick.
What about the first part of the concert?
I found it rather boring. I found there was too much improvising on his wretched harmonica, and he tended to lose the rhythm on his guitar altogether at times.
Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not sleepy, and there is no place I'm going to. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. In the jingle jangle morning, I'll come following you. Oh, I know that evening's empire has returned into sand, vanished from my hand, left me blindly here to stand, but still not sleeping. My weariness amazes me, I'm branded on my feet. I have no one to meet, and the ancient empty streets too dead for dreaming. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not sleepy, and there is no place I'm going to. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. In the jingle jangle morning, I'll come following you.
Got out of high school and left the very next day. I'd gone as far as I could in my particular environment. I was going to try to join some other band.
He would let people know that he was maybe Bobby V. Bob told everyone, including his cousins and relatives, that he was Bobby V. And I guess he liked that recognition of being famous, because people looked at him and say, "Hey, that's a pretty good song you got out, Bobby V."
I was a musical expeditionary. I had no past really to speak of, nothing to go back to, nobody to lean on. I came down to Minneapolis. I didn't go to classes. I was enrolled, but I didn't go to classes. I just didn't feel like it. We were singing and playing all night, sleeping most of the morning. I didn't really have any time for studying.
Praised be man. He is existing in milk and living in lilies, and his violin music takes place in milk and creamy emptiness. Praised be the unfolded inside petal flesh of tenderest thought. Praised be delusion, the ripple. Praised be the holy ocean of eternity. Praised be I, writing, dead already and dead again.
I fell into that atmosphere of everything Kerouac was saying about the world being completely mad, and the only people for him that were interesting were the mad people, the mad ones, the ones who were mad to live and mad to talk, mad to be saved, desirous of everything at the same time, the ones who never yawn, all those mad ones, and I felt like I fit right into that bunch.
Go away from my window, go away from my door, go away, away, away from my bedside, and bother me no more, and bother me no more. I'll give you back your letters, I'll give you back your ring, but I'll never forget my own true love, as long as songbirds sing, as long as songbirds sing. I'll go tell all my brothers.
I had heard folk music before leaving the Iron Range. I'd heard John Jacob Niles somewhere, strangely enough. I thought folk music was delivering me something, which is the way I always felt about life, and people. And you know, institutions and ideology, and it was just, you know, uncovering it all.
There ain't no ham tall as a mountain, ain't like mine, but ain't like mine. Is there a
She played that upstroke, downstroke kind of rhythm where you don't need the drum. It's kind of like a Tex-Mex rhythm. I heard that rhythm, and I said, well, I could use that rhythm for all kinds of things. I don't remember, you know, buying any records. I went into the booth. I had a very agile mind. I could learn a song by maybe hearing it once or twice. I traded my electric equipment for acoustic guitar. Started playing almost immediately.
There he is, down at the end of the bar. Dylan, how are you? Dylan Thomas. And he's looking shocked. Out in Minnesota, there was a young man who was inspired to change his name to Dylan because of the poet Dylan Thomas. Piety sings, innocence sweetens my last black breath. Modesty hides my thighs in her wings. And all the deadly virtues plague my death.
Why it became that particular name, I really can't say.
There was some intimation that maybe he was changing his name because of a racial thing. Because I later found out that Minneapolis had a fairly big history of being anti-Semitic, which I wasn't aware of at all. But
the name just popped in my head one day, but it didn't really happen any of the ways that I've read about it. I mean, I just don't feel like I had a past, and you know, I couldn't relate to anything other than what I was doing at the present time, and I don't, you know, didn't matter to me what I said. You know, it still doesn't really.
I'm gonna walk the streets of glory.
He sounded like average, I would say. He wasn't the worst, he wasn't the best, but the repertoire was similar to everybody else's repertoire. Josh White, Odetta, Belafonte.
Right then and there, I had no goal except learning all these songs I could.
I thought I heard that kissy when she blew. Lord, I thought I heard that kissy when she blew. She blew like my woman's on board.
he was hungry, you know, hungry in a lot of ways, not just for money, not just for fame, but he was hungry for experience, for getting out, for doing it, for seeing what was out there, seeing who he could be.
Where are the eyes that look so mild, hurroo, hurroo?
He was like a sponge in a way, like pick up people's mannerisms, accents.
Where are your eyes that shone so mild when you first my heart beguiled? Why did you run from me and the child?
I'd forgotten all about the Iron Range, where I grew up. I'd forgotten about it all. It didn't even enter my mind.
John Henry, when he was a baby, sitting down on his mammy's knee, picked up a hammer in his little right hand. That's gonna be the death of me. Hammer'll be the death of me.
Woody Guthrie. He had a particular sound. And besides that, he said something to go along with his sound. That was highly unusual to my ears.
Jesus Christ was a man that traveled through the land, hard-working man and brave.
But that dirty little coward named Judas Iscariot, he laid Jesus Christ in his grave.
He was a radical. His songs had a radical slant. Ooh, that's what I want to sing. I want to sing that.
Down along the river, just sitting on a rock, I'm looking at the boats in the Bonneville lock. Gate swings open, the boat sails in, the toot-toot whistle, she's gone again.
I couldn't believe that I'd never heard of this man. You could listen to his songs and actually learn how to live. One guy said, oh, you're singing a Woody Guthrie song. He gave me a book that he wrote called Bound for Glory, and I read it. I identified with Bound for Glory book more than I even did with On the Road. These songs sounded archaic to most people. I don't know why they didn't sound archaic to me. They sounded like these songs were happening at the moment to me.
Fantastic, very good.
Rank.
Excellent.
It was lousy, it was pathetic. He was great.
He's just doing what he wants to do, isn't he? You know, if you don't like it, surely cut out. Huh?
Said on the
See
ticket
Bob
he
Dylan,
came
not
to
a
see
pop
Dylan,
group.
not a group.
Not a pop group. No. How many pop groups like that?
You've been here with all the pictures.
I don't want
I took a hold of special people here with all the pictures.
Rambling around your cities, rambling around your towns, I never see a friend I know as I go.
I was just learning songs and playing them and trying to find out who Woody Guthrie was.
As I go rambling around.
Woody's records were almost impossible to find. They didn't have any of his records in the record stores. Paul was a folk music scholar. He didn't play at all. He had a whole lot of records which probably couldn't be found anywhere else in the Midwest except at Paul's house, and he lived there with somebody else. And I was listening to records at his house once. I knew they'd be away for the weekend, so I went over there and helped myself to a bunch more records.
Little Margaret is sitting in her high hall door.
About 25 records disappeared, mostly the stuff that Dylan was listening to. And we sort of figured out that he'd taken them.
Those records were extremely hard to find. They were like hen's teeth. If you came across them, somebody like myself, who was a musical expeditionary, you just would have to immerse yourself in them.
So we started trying to track Dylan down. We tried the fraternity house where he had once been. No luck there. We got another address, and then yet another, and everybody said, boy, this kid must be popular. You're about the 10th guy looking for him, in every place we went. And I don't know how we finally found him, but we got a current apartment. This was a John Wayne production number that John did. He got a bowling pin and he got a big cigar, and John was 6'4" or something like this. And it wasn't ever intending to hit Dylan with the bowling pin or anything, but it was really going to do the bit. John just started waving the bowling pin over his head and just saying, I'm gonna beat the hell out of you, where are my records? And Dylan was very scared for the first time around. This routine went, but he maintained his cool somehow, and it somehow settled into sort of an absurdist drama where they would sort of talk. Dylan would say something interesting, and John would get interesting, and they'd start to talk, and they'd start to sort of like each other a little bit, and then John would remember why he was there, and he'd start brandishing the pin again, and they'd play the whole scene out again.
I'm a rambler, I'm a gambler, I'm a long way from my home. If the people don't like me, they can leave me.
I wanted to get to the East Coast to visit Woody Guthrie. When I first heard him, I didn't know he was dead or alive, really, but then I discovered that he was definitely alive, and he was in a hospital with some kind of ailment. So I thought it would be a nice gesture to go visit him. Hitchhiking back then was very acceptable. I had a suitcase and a guitar. And I don't know, maybe I had $10 in my pocket.
Virgin Mary had one son. Ooh, glory, hallelujah. Ooh, pretty little baby. Glory be to the newborn King. Some call him Jesus, think I'll call him Savior. Ooh, I think I'll call him Savior. Ooh, I think I'll call him Savior. Glory be to the newborn King.
Joan Baez. She was staggering. Kind of like hit my world from a different angle. She was completely about folk music. She was an excellent, really excellent guitar player. When I saw her on television, I thought, you know, like, that girl looks like she might need a singing partner. I'd say she was someplace in the back of my mind, you know?
Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Got out of the car on George Washington Bridge, took a subway down in the village. Went to the Cafe Wah. I looked out at the crowd. Well, I most likely asked from the stage, does anybody know where a couple of people could stay tonight?
It was an old Greenwich Village, which was the 20s Bohemia, and had a very venerable history. I first came down in 1948 with a red bandana around my neck on the subway to go to see if I could find poets in Greenwich Village. But there had been poets.
I probably came into the village around 1952 or 53. I was a kid. I was living in Queens, not liking it very much. For me, it was very sophisticated. I liked that. I was into jazz at the time. I didn't like the folk music thing much at all. I was very snobbish. Over across the street, there was Nick's. I actually met Tony Spargo, who was the drummer on the very first jazz records. He was the original Dixieland Jazz Band in 1917.
When I was young, it was a very laid-back place, intermingled with various ethnic groups where lots of what we called bohemians, doing their art, walking their dogs.
That is my one man desire.
There's a wonderful creative climate there, although I wasn't fully aware of it. But it was the center of the art world, happenings, the first art movements were going on. It was all there.
You were suddenly able to take your clothes off. You were suddenly free of all the shackles of family, the baggage of tradition, of bad tradition. I was looking for freedom, but freedom didn't exist all over America. Freedom only existed really here in the village, in Greenwich Village.
The big breakthrough was in an ex-gay bar on McDougal Street, formerly the McDougal Street Bar. I think this was 58 or 59. Then called the Gaslight. And it was the first poetry reading in one of these sort of coffee shop bars, sort of a folk club coffee shop bar. And it was so astonishing that there was a story on page 3, a whole page in the Daily News. Poets reading in the coffee shop.
Down the block here was the San Remo. And every Saturday night, you'd have the riots between the Stalinists and the Trotskyites. Glasses flying, and that sort of thing.
There's an old bitch upstairs who keeps pounding the floor, and she's threatening to call the police all the time. Who used to be out of the bar here with James Baldwin, the writer. And he used to puff smoke. Yes, goddamn Irish music. When I was a little boy, so my mother told me to me, way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe. And the whole place would erupt, way haul away, the good ship now is rolling to me, way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe.
In Washington Square, early days, it was just a place for people to hang out on Sundays and talk and play music and kind of jockey around and express themselves. It was a place where you could put it together so someone could hear it a little bit. There weren't many concerts in those days.
Big fat woman with the meat shaking on her bones. Doggone my soul, lonely mama. Big fat woman with the meat shaking on her bones.
People were starting to play little gigs in these coffee houses in the village. We called them basket houses. We didn't get paid a dime, but we would pass a little bread basket around after the set, and people would throw change in, and then we'd pack up our guitars and go round to the next club.
I ain't gonna marry, I ain't gonna settle down, doggone my soul, lonely mama.
They put the singers on in between beat poets to turn the house, essentially. So you get 3 songs. You could sing 3 songs. And what it came down to is if at the end of your 3 songs there was still anybody seated in the house, you were fired. You weren't doing your job. Needless to say, we didn't get fired. That we could do.
Now if you see that girl of mine, there's something I want you to tell her. Tell her not to be wasting her time. Run around with some other fella. Hold on on some foggy mountain top, I'd sail away to the west. I'd sail all around.
When we played in the city, who was the audience? Who were those people walking up and down McDougal Street? There was a lot of them. Some were people from the suburbs coming in to look at the weird scene. Some were from the city looking at the weird scene. Some were the weird scene. It was never clear that this was the audience and this was the singer, because maybe half the audience, if they had their druthers, they'd be up on the stage singing as well. It was very interesting.
I was ready for New York.
Baby, please don't go. Baby, please don't go.
Started playing immediately, and I realized right away that, I'd come to the right place because there were many places to play.
Jagged diamond is hard. Jagged diamond is hard.
I played with Freddie Neal. He was a big star down there. I did that until about 8. He would give me what he could, and places usually packed from 12 to 8 with tourists and lunch hour secretaries. And then at 8, all the rest of that houses would open. You pass the basket and play.
Check it out, Cafe.
There'd be McCartney on the street bringing people down. Hey, you gotta come down here and see there's so much weirdness you've never seen in your life. It'd be people coming and going.
I have studied at Oxford University, have done my research at the British Museum, and have matriculated at Brooklyn College.
Sawdust on the floor, tourist traps. Like a poet, somebody who's singing a song with a parrot on a shoulder, Tiny Tim type characters. No one who had any recordings out ever played them. Well, you only played those if you had to.
If I had wings, like an oyster.
You would have to make an impression on somebody. There was many, many singers who were good, but they couldn't focus their attention on anybody. They couldn't really get inside somebody's head.
Fare thee well, my honey, fare thee well.
You got to be able to pin somebody down.
I remember him because he was different. He was doing Woody Guthrie songs. He had on a little hat, he had a brace. There's a quality of determination and of will that some people have, you know, where when they're doing something, they're really doing it, and you know that you have to pay attention to them.
I first met Bob in the winter of 1961. We were awkward. Neither of us really knew quite what to say. So as a prop, he pulled out this card, and he's moving his leg like that. He just hands me the card. And after he handed it to me, kind of glances and then continues to sort of talk about Woody Guthrie. And on the card it said, "I ain't dead yet," signed Woody Guthrie. And it was actually Woody's handwriting, I guess, because Bob claimed it was. Like, Woody was very important to both of us. Bob, I think, wanted to be more like Woody than I did. He was able to adopt a kind of theater about himself. Actually, the very first time that I met him, he was really acting in a way. And that was good because you can go anywhere when you're somebody else.
Cinderella, she seems so easy. It takes one to know when she smiles and puts her hands into her back pocket, Betty Davis style. And in comes Romeo, he's moaning. You belong to me, I believe. And someone turns and says to him, my friend, you'd better leave. And the only sound that's left after the ambulances go is Cinderella sweeping up on Desolation Road. Now the moon is almost hidden. The stars, they're just pretending to hide. The fortune-telling lady has even taken all her things inside, all except for Cain and Abel and the hunchback of Notre Dame. Everyone is either making love or else expecting rain. And the good Samaritan, he's dressing, he's getting ready for the show. He's going to the carnival tonight on Desolation Road.
I want to see this person immediately.
What?
Whoever's going to shoot me.
Is there a shotgun in the house?
How do you find that out, Albert?
This phone in front of the house. It's only a crank. They just phoned from in front of the house.
Phone box office and they say they're going to shoot me. Yeah. Well, they do this often? Well, I don't mind being shot, man, but I don't dig being told about it.
Oh, man, I can't believe that.
Don't worry, Mickey, I'll protect you.
I hope so. I hope so.
Don't tell me not to push too hard, man. I'm worried about getting shot. I'm not going to push too hard. I roamed down a rainbow and I followed my footsteps through the sunny bright sands of the diamond deserts.
Obviously, he was channeling Woody Guthrie. He was literally channeling him, everything about him, and I think it was part of his way of finding who he was in the end by imitating and assimilating Woody Guthrie.
So I found out where Woody Guthrie was, and I took a bus out to Morristown. Basically, I think it was an insane asylum. I thought about later it was a sad thing. They put him in a mental home because he was just had the jitters.
This land is your land, and this land is my land.
He asked for certain songs, and I'd play them. I was young and impressionable, and I think I must have been shocked in some kind of way to find him where I found him.
This land was made for you and me.
No more in this old life.
Brother John Sellers. He was the master of ceremonies at Gertie's Folk City. And there was one night called Hootenanny Night where anybody could play.
Call him drunken Ira Hayes, but his lands are still as dry, and his ghost is lying thirsty in the ditch where Ira died.
We'd go down there every Monday night. Peter Lafarge, who was sort of a cowboy / Indian, and Cisco Houston. A lot of the old Woody Guthrie crowd was still hanging out there.
I'm a Dust Bowl refugee.
You just watched and you picked out the performers that were doing it for real and tried to pick up what the essence of what they were doing was.
All of us were interested in seeing what the other guy was doing on stage, because there was a lot more to be learned than just songs or picking styles.
He was just a poor boy and a long way from home.
Dave Van Ronk. He had that big gruff thing, but he had this very sweet, sensitive thing going on at the same time. He was a dichotomy of a performer.
He was a friend of mine.
He could take the essence of the song and only go after that, not go after the frills.
On Monday nights, Bob Dylan used to come over there, and he was always just hanging around. Sometimes you want to say, go away.
At the early age of 16 years, he left his native home and to Australia's sunny shore he was inclined to roam. He robbed the rich, he helped the poor, he shot James McAvoy. And terror to Australia was the wild colonial boy.
Liam was profound. He would, besides all of his rebel songs and his acting career, he would have these incredible sayings. Like once he said to me, after about 30 pints of Guinness, he was saying, "Remember, Bob, no fear, no envy, no meanness." I said, right.
In London City, where I did dwell, a butcher boy I loved right well. He courted me my life away, but now with me he will not stay. I wish in vain.
What I heard in the Clancy Brothers was a rousing rebel songs, Napoleonic in scope. And they were just these musketeer type characters. But then on the other level, you had the romantic ballads that would just, slay you right in your tracks. The sweetness of Tommy Makem and Liam. I mean, it was just like take a sword, cut off your head, and then weep. This is sort of what they were about.
At every word she dropped a tear, and every line cried, Willie dear. Oh, what a foolish girl was I to be led astray by a butcher boy. He went upstairs and the door he broke.
All the great performers that I'd seen, who I wanted to be like were those kind of performers. They all had one thing in common. It was in their eyes. And there was something in their eyes that would say, you know, I know something you don't know, and I wanted to be that kind of performer.
Sorrow. I've seen trouble all of my days. I'll say goodbye to Colorado, where I was born and partly raised. This open world I'm bound to ramble through ice and snow, sleet and rain. I'm bound to ride that morning railroad. Perhaps I'll die upon that train.
He was playing at some party or something, and it was like a whole different guy. You hear those stories about the bluesmen that go out to the crossroads and sell their soul to the devil and come back all of a sudden able to do stuff. Robert Johnson, Tommy Johnson, that whole mythology was one of those kind of deals almost. When he left Minneapolis, he was just average. You know, there was 5, 6 other guys doing the same thing. When he came back, he was doing Woody, and he was doing Van Ronk, and he was finger picking. He was playing cross harp. And this is a matter of a couple of months. I mean, this is not like he was gone, you know, a year or anything. He was gone a couple of months, and apparently whatever he got into so intensely that he was like a real interesting performer.
That's when I went to the crossroads and made a big deal. You know, like, yeah. One night, and then went back to Minneapolis, and I was like, hey, where's this guy been? You know, he'd been to the crossroads.
Take a trip with me in 1913 to Calumet, Michigan in the copper country. I'll take you to a place called Italian Hall.
I wasn't singing Woody Guthrie anymore. I was still singing a lot of his songs, but I'd replace them with a lot of the other songs all of a sudden. I kind of went through Woody Guthrie in a kind of way, but I didn't really want to go through Woody Guthrie. I didn't want to feel that it was something just negligible.
Hey, hey, Woody Guthrie, I wrote you a song about a funny old world that's a-coming along. Seems sick and it's hungry, it's tired and it's torn. It looks like it's a dying and it's hardly been born.
I really cared. I really wanted to portray my gratitude in some kind of way. But I knew that I was not going to be going back to Greystone anymore.
All the things that I'm saying.
I felt like I had to write that song. I did not consider myself a songwriter at all. But I needed to write that, and I needed to sing it. So that's why I needed to write it, because it hadn't been written, and that's what I needed to say. I needed to say that.
Here's to Cisco and Sonny and Lead Belly too, and to all the good people that traveled with you. Here's to the hearts and the hands of the men that come with the dust and are gone with the wind.
So this guy comes in, he didn't look too prepossessing, he didn't look too interesting to me, he didn't look wild, or he looked like an ordinary kid. He didn't have the commanding presence. And he said, listen, I got some songs I want you to hear. So I said, oh God, can you come tomorrow? I said, get out of here. I said, no, I want to sing you a song. So I let him sing the song, then I kick him out, then he comes back, then he comes back, and he came back. And then I started pointing people. I said, listen, see that guy in the back room? His name is Bob Dylan. You should listen to him. The guy's writing good songs. He's terrific. He told me he never knew the word folk music before he came to New York City. What bullshit, God. And he'd never seen somebody playing a banjo before he came to New York City. And he'd never seen all these things before he came to New York City. It opened his eyes up wide to what folk music is, after having lived on the Mississippi River and everything. I was born in Duluth, Minnesota in 1941, moved to Gallup, New Mexico, then until now, lived in Iowa, South Dakota, Kansas, North Dakota for a little bit. Started playing in carnivals when I was 14 with guitar and piano. Arvella Gray taught him blues songs. Blind street singer from Chicago about 4 or 5 years ago. Used to know a guy named Mance Lipscomb from Navasota, Texas. Listened to him a lot. Met him through his grandson, a rock and roller. Now, listening to Arvella Gray in Chicago, Mance Lipscomb in Texas, I should have figured out right away he's bullshitting me. And I only found out later that he had borrowed 400 records from Tony Glover or something like that, which he still hasn't returned, and things like that. So I was a setup, a very easy setup, and I'm proud of it because the guy wrote good songs. I didn't care what he was telling me.
I saw it advertised one day, Bear Mountain picnic was coming my way. Come along with us, take a trip. We'll transport you up there on a ship. Bring the wife and kids. Fun for all. Yippee.
The owner of the place finally gave me a 2-week run. He had me open for John Lee Hooker.
Well, it don't seem to me quite so funny what some of these people are gonna do for money. There's a brand new gimmick every day just to take somebody's money away.
I didn't really feel like I was making a step forward anywhere. Things were taking its natural course.
Now, November the 4th, Bob Dylan will be singing, and that should be a very eventful occasion. Bob was born in Duluth, Minnesota, but Bob, you weren't raised in Duluth, were you?
I was raised in Gallup, New Mexico.
And did you get many songs there?
Got a lot of cowboy songs there, Indian songs. Well, I'm gonna get you, Sally girl, I'm gonna get you, Sally girl, I'm gonna get you, Sally girl, I'm gonna get you, Sally girl.
I didn't start to have any ambition until I started working more and more. I wondered how people recorded. I wondered how you get to do that. There were always talent scouts in the clubs. No one had ever spoken to me directly about making any records, so I just assumed they'd passed on me.
Some like a night at the movies.
The most important new vocal personality of recent years, John A. Mathis.